Hello, and welcome back to Book 3, Chapter 9 of You Should Be Reading. This week, I'd like to talk to you about this fun little book, Free Agent, Book 1 of a Grimm Agency series by J.C. Nelson. Now, Free Agent is kind of an urban fantasy. Hadn't been reading a lot of urban fantasy lately. Um, I'm usually very big into it. I've got quite a few different ones over there. But as all things, you kind of get a little burnt out on it, so you want to go and read other things, which is fine. It's all good. But I figured I'd give this one a try simply because I read like the first couple pages. The writing style seemed to be very, very interesting, very snarky, and I am a fan of snark. Um, but also it deals with fairies a lot and some of that old world type of fairy magic and myths and whatnot, but in a very interesting way. So I figured I'd give this a check out, and boy, am I glad that I have, because this ranks up there with, I would say, Jim Butcher's Dresden Files series. Um, what's her face there? Patricia Briggs and her Mercy Thompson books. And there's also another one. I'm trying to remember. It'll come to me here in a bit. Um, but there's another one as well. Elemental Assassin series by Jennifer Estep. There we go. Those ones with Jin Blanco as the main character. All urban fantasy type deals where you have like monsters and that from the old myths, but in modern day. And I really quite like them. And this one does some interesting things. What's it about? Well, you have this young lady on the cover here, a Marissa Locks. That's not a real name. Marissa is, but not Locks. They gave her that name because it's like Goldie Locks. They explain it a little more in the book. But it's interesting because Marissa here works for a fairy godfather hmm by the name of Grimm, Grimm. And she's working for him because her parents sold her to Grimm in order to save her sister from some, basically, her sister had a very serious heart condition and was probably going to die. So her parents sold her to Grimm so that Grimm would cure her sister. And she now works for Grimm as kind of an indentured servant to earn enough glitter, which is currency in the magic world, to basically buy her freedom. She's got a little vial around her neck that she can look at that will show her how much glitter she's accumulated. And the first thing that she sets off to do, what she usually ends up doing, she's the wrong woman. It's her job to basically meet a prince, kind of do a little whirlwind romance with him, and then dump him and completely tear up his heart so that the princess can sweep in and fix it and they'll be lovey-dovey and happily ever after. Seems pretty cold, but as Grimm likes to say, it works every time because it's all about planning. And she gets called to set up a princess with a prince, only something goes wrong. And that's when you find out that there's another fairy trying to muscle in on Grimm's turf. There's possible the Fey legions going to come in and destroy everything because something's going on behind the scenes. And then she ends up cursed. So there's a lot of things going on in this book. It all flows together fairly well. I do like that. I love the actual writing, the voice that they give that she Mr. or Mrs. I don't know if it's a man or a woman, but J.C. Nelson. Um, I like the voice that Marissa is given in this because she's very much her own person and very much a strong female character, despite having weaknesses. Like it's one of the things that I find a lot of authors can fall into that trap where they're writing a strong female character and then they don't have a lot of weaknesses. They don't have those things that make them human, or they'll write a female character with weaknesses, but they won't write them as strong because they're focusing too much on their weaknesses. I've seen it in quite a few books. Um, it's something that unless it's really blatant, um, I tend to I tend to not really focus too much on, um, because if it's not detracting from the whole story, for me it doesn't really bother me that much. Uh, there are some exceptions, of course, uh, but with this one, Marissa is very much a very strong female protagonist, and she has weaknesses. She's very human, but she still overcomes them and goes on to save the day because she's a protagonist. It's what protagonists do. And it's very clever, very nicely well written. Um, the minor characters that you have are all quite fully fleshed out. Even the ones that aren't in it very long, uh, there's still there's basically like there's backstory here. There's stuff that's been going on. The author knows what these characters are all about before they even shown up on the page, and it shows that there's been a lot of love crafted into this particular book. Uh, so yes, I think you should read it. You should give it a shot. It's the first in the new series that's coming out. I believe it was, when was it here? When was it released? 2014. So not that long ago. Not that long ago. Only maybe 2 years, maybe a year and a half. Depends on when it was released in 2014. So yes, very interesting. Definitely give it a read. Uh, More than worth your time, uh, especially when she starts grumbling about princesses because princesses are like totally super magical in this world. Princes and princesses, they don't have magic tends to not affect them as much as other people. They tend to like everything tends to fall in their way because they're a prince or a princess simply from their birth and whatnot. Yeah, she has some snarky things to say about those people. There's gnomes running the post office that think she's a killer. Uh, all kinds of weird little things. Wolves that steal children. Some nasty stuff going on here. Definitely almost, almost, but not quite. Kind of a bit of a tip of the hat to Fables, perhaps, because it's a lot of these things in like a city hiding in plain sight type deal. It's definitely interesting. So yes, give it a read. Worth your time. Um, because this week you should be reading Free Agent by J.C. Nelson. And don't forget, if you like my little show here, if you like my other shows, please tap that like button and let me know. Drop a comment in the comment section. I love to talk about it. Talk about the book. If you read it, please throw me a comment. Let's get a discussion going. And if you haven't already, please tap that subscribe button. That way you can be kept informed of any new videos that I happen to post out. Usually something gets updated weekly. Don't know what. Sometimes it's only one video, sometimes it's multiple. It all depends on what I have the time to do that particular week. So yes, you all keep reading, and I will see you all next time.